The I Am Not a Rabbi podcast, episode 0. Welcome to the inaugural episode of the I Am Not a Rabbi podcast. This is, as I mentioned before, episode 0. Episode zeros are a strange thing. If you're a comic book nerd like myself, whenever you have an episode 0 or an issue 0, in the case of comics, there's some sort of origin that is going on there. And that's exactly what this is for this podcast. And so let's get right into it. Why did I make this podcast, or why am I making this podcast, more to the point? And that is because, really, I like to have theological discussions with people and philosophical discussions with people about religion. And I really do enjoy it. And the more nuanced that you can get with these conversations, I find that the better the conversations are. I can think of no better medium to have a sort of a conversation than over podcast. Twitter is a hot mess, I think you could say. To the that'd probably be kind, putting it that way. Facebook, the same thing. And so there is no real, no other place to have these conversations in long form-ish types of things than in a podcast. So that's why I'm doing it. One of the reasons why I'm doing it. And the other reason is that a lot of times on the internet, or even in real life when I'm talking to people, there are a lot of things that are mischaracterized about Orthodox Jews, which I, politely, obviously, set the record straight about. And that's one of the goals of this podcast as well, is to have a nuanced conversation about what a middle-of-the-road, dare I say, centrist Orthodox Jew thinks and believes, with me being the titular Orthodox Jew. And that really works out well because I happen to be one. So anyhow, that is really what we're going to be doing. I have a couple of episode ideas that that I'm working on right now. I hope to be coming out with them every 2 weeks or so. And in addition to that, there is also the ability to take questions from you and for you, the listener, to comment as well. And I would love for you to do that so we can keep the conversation going. That's a very important thing, I think, as well. Hopefully, I'll have some guests at some point. There are a couple of reasons for that. I think that's really one reason, which is that it gets kind of boring for one guy behind a microphone to do the talking all the time without having someone to work off of. And it's really even taxing for said guy as well, behind the microphone. So anyhow, if you are interested in joining this conversation, subscribe. You can find this podcast. You will be able to find this podcast, and you should be able to find this podcast anywhere podcasts are served. That's talking about Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Overcast, Pocket Casts. Those are a couple of the big ones that I could think of. I'm sure that there are others out there that I am forgetting. If I forgot you, please forgive me and have me as a podcast on that service anyway. Thank you very much. That's about it for right now. Thank you for listening to episode 0. I am Aaron Benedict, and I am not a rabbi.